If you want to smash a personal record in FireFit or the Firefighter challenge this year, you need a plan. But here's the thing, a one-size-fits-all plan won't work. What you need is a personal plan tailored to your specific goal. You need competition-proven strategies that can take your personal goal and break it into smaller, achievable steps. So I'm going to give you 5 strategies that you can use to build your own personal plan to smash your PR. I know this works because these are the strategies that I've been using for the past 10 years, and with them, I have gone from a 145 to a 115. I've been the Canadian national champion, 2-time over 40 national champion, multiple national podiums, and I am the current over 45 world record holder. And these are the same strategies I'll be using this year to break my own personal record. Okay, so maybe you're a new athlete who's raced a couple of times, or maybe you're a seasoned athlete who's hit a plateau and can't crack the lion's den or 90-second or 80-second mark. You want to get faster.
Now, is there anyone out there who wants to go fast? Anybody?
I want to go fast.
But you don't know where to start or what to do. The first strategy to set a new personal record is to know your splits. I get asked a lot in person and online, how do I get faster? The first question I always ask back is, do you know your splits? The way you answer this question tells me a lot about where you are in your journey. If you don't know what time splits are, or you don't know what your splits are, this is the first place you need to start. Not knowing your splits is going to leave a lot of opportunity for improvement on the table. It also shows me that your training probably is not focused and targeted in the right places. If you're an athlete who does know your splits, then this is going to be an opportunity to dive into them a little bit deeper. So what are splits? When I say splits, I'm referring to the time that it takes for you to complete each section of the course during an individual run. In my coaching and training, I break the course into 8 different sections. Number 1 is the up. This is from the start of the race to the athlete touching the rope. The second one is what we call rope. Rope is from when the athlete touches the rope to when the bundle is going over the railing. Number 3, the down section is from the bundle going over the railing to the athlete going down the stairs and touching the handle of the hammer. Number 4, the hammer is from the athlete touching the hammer to the hammer being complete and the hammer hitting the ground in the target box. Number 5 is the hydrants. That's from the time the hammer hits the ground to the time the athlete touches the nozzle. Number 6 is the hose. This is from the athlete touching the nozzle to them shooting the target and dropping the nozzle. Number 7 is a specific time split that I add in that is from the end of the hose to the beginning of the dummy. So this is from when the hose drops to when the athlete touches the dummy. And finally, the 8th split is the dummy drag, and that's from the athlete touching the dummy to the athlete completing the race. The easiest way to get your splits is to get a video of your race using a stopwatch, hit the lap button every time the athlete hits a benchmark, as I've listed in the 8 sections previously. Now, once you have your splits, we can start to have an informed and directed conversation about where your training should go. I personally started this process in 2015. I wanted to get faster. So just for fun, I decided to compare my time splits to those of the then champion Ian Van Reenen. I was running in the high 120s and he was running around 112. His times felt like they were a universe away from mine, but something interesting happened when I compared our split. I had 4 sections of the course that were the same as his, and obviously the other 4 were way off. But what this did was give me an idea of where to focus my training. If my down, hammer, pylons, and hose to dummy transition were the same, then there would be little to gain by focusing on those areas and making them faster. Ian's times beat my times by 2 seconds on the up, 4 seconds on the rope, 7 seconds on the dummy, and 2 seconds on the hose drag. So this gave me 4 main areas I needed to address in order to get faster. I felt like I had more of a plan on how to progress and where to put my effort. What started as an off-the-cuff exercise for fun actually ended up being one of the foundational methods of my coaching and training going forward. After you've done your splits, you need to identify your 3 main areas of improvement. Sometimes this is obvious, but sometimes it's more difficult to determine what are your best and worst parts of the course. So how do we figure this out? The second strategy to set a new personal record is to pick a realistic goal. If you ran a 140 last year, it's unlikely that you're going to run a 115 this year. I also understand that it can be hard to be honest with yourself about what is a realistic goal or realistic expectations for improvement year to year. The good news is I built a tool to help you. Here's a table that you can use as a rule of thumb. Obviously, lots of exceptions are possible, but this is a good starting point if you have no idea where to start. You can also adjust your expectations throughout the season as you race. For example, if you're a FireFit athlete who is a male who ran a 140 last year, then it is realistic to pick a time between 135 and 130 as your new goal. After you've used this table to pick your new goal time and you know your splits, now you need a way of comparing them. So how do you do this? Well, you could find a video of someone who runs your goal time and do the splits for that race. Or, lucky you, I've built another tool for you. So make sure you stay to the end of the video where I explain where you can find it and how to use it. Here's an example of a male athlete who has a goal of 120 but currently runs a 125. You can see that this athlete needs to improve their rope, down, and dummy in order to reach their goal time. So these are the 3 areas that they should focus on in order to improve. With the goal time splits that I give you compared to your current splits, you should be able to now identify the top 3 areas that you need to work on, your top 3 weaknesses. And now that you have your top 3 weaknesses, what do we do with them? The third strategy to set a new personal record this year is to attack your weaknesses. What I mean by attack your weaknesses is to focus on your weaknesses more than anything else. I'm a big believer that you have more to gain by working on the things that you're weak at as opposed to spending more time on things that you are already strong at. While you may agree with me, it's not immediately obvious how you need to deal with each of your weaknesses. The best way to approach your weaknesses is to understand that each of them consists of 5 elements. Number 1, strength. Number 2, speed and power. Number 3, conditioning. Number 4, technique. And number 5 is mental. Because each athlete brings different strengths and weaknesses to the course, and each of those weaknesses have different elements that need work, this is why a one-size-fits-all plan is not suitable for setting a new personal record. In order to get the most out of your training, you need to understand which element is the most important to work on for each of your weaknesses. The way I suggest to do this is to take each of your top 3 weaknesses and then try to rank the elements of each weakness from most needed to least needed. For example, a 185-pound athlete who has really great conditioning might rank the dummy in the following way. Strength being the most needed, followed by power and speed, then mental, conditioning, and technique. Or another athlete who is really strong, say over 210 pounds, they can squat over double body weight, they might rank the dummy as number 1 need being conditioning, and then technique, power, strength, and mental. Here are the questions that I ask myself that help me to rank these elements. Do I feel weak or overloaded? Then strength is probably the number 1 element. Do I feel flat-footed or slow? Then power and speed might be the number 1 element. Am I too tired or breathing hard or my legs are burning? Then conditioning might be the number 1 element. Do I feel clumsy or unsure of myself during that section? Then technique might be the number 1 element. And do I find myself taking it easy even when I'm not tired? Or do I find that my transitions are slow? Then the mental aspect might be the number 1 element. So take time to consider each of your top 3 weaknesses, ask yourself these questions, and then see if you can rank for each of those top 3 the elements in order of most needed to least needed. Focus on the biggest wins, even if you don't want to. For example, if dummy is the number 1 place you have to improve and you rank strength as the number 1 element of that weakness, then your training should focus primarily on building strength. For myself, this is what I found. I needed to put on 15 to 20 pounds and I needed to get stronger. That was to get my dummy faster. The nice thing is that when I got stronger, my dummy improved, so did a lot of other sections of the course. My rope got better, my hose drag got better. So by working on my number 1 weakness and the number 1 element of that weakness, a lot of the other aspects of my race got faster as well. You should start to feel like your personal plan is starting to take shape. You have a goal time, you know what your top 3 weaknesses are, you know what elements you need to work on for each of those weaknesses. But one of the things that is very true is that you can have the best plan and strategies in the world, but if you don't put time in to execute them, they're not worth anything. You need to be deliberate about your training and what you're focused on. Alternatively, overcommitting yourself or setting unrealistic goals for training can also sabotage your progress. Considering your work and your life and all of the things and how important it is to set a personal record, you need to be able to be honest with yourself about what you can commit to training for FireFit and the Firefighter Challenge. Therefore, the fourth strategy to setting a new personal record is to schedule your commitment. Like most things in life, if something is important, you need to carve time out for it, and you need to make it a part of your weekly routine. That's what this strategy is about. Committing a portion of your week to training to set a new personal record. I want to help you think strategically about what your training schedule will look like this year. In order to do that, I want you to consider the following main categories. Number one is sessions. How many sessions per week are you going to put in? Are you going to put in 7 sessions per week or 5? Are you going to have some days where you do 2 sessions and some days where you have none? Be realistic, but pick a number of sessions that you can commit to each week. Number 2 is focus. What I mean by that is, what is going to be the focus of these training sessions? Now, this should come directly out of understanding what your 3 weaknesses are. So are you focusing on strength? Are you focusing on conditioning? Are you focusing on power or technique, etc.? You can think about this in terms of percentages. What percentage of your sessions will be for strength? What percentage of your sessions will be for technique? What percentage of your sessions will be for speed and power? The third category I want you to consider is recovery. How much time per week can you focus on recovery? Are you going to commit to having a certain number of days per week where you commit to getting 8 hours of sleep? Is there a certain number of times per week that you're going to see physio, chiro, or massage in order to prevent or deal with injuries? Number 4 is nutrition. Think about whether or not you're going to commit to tracking your macros or tracking your nutrition. And if you do, are you going to do it every day of the week or 4 days of the week? And then the final category I want you to think about is the start time. Are you going to start training and make this commitment from the beginning of the year, or are you going to do it 5 months out or 4 or 3 months out from your races? Because each athlete is different, brings different strengths and weaknesses to their training, I can't create a blanket training program that incorporates all these things that would apply to everybody. For example, in 2025, I worked out 5 to 6 times a week, starting right after the World Championships in Nashville in 2024. I also focused on recovery and tracked my nutrition 4 days a week. And I did all of this to shave 2 seconds off my PB. And this allowed me to achieve my goal of being the over 45 world record holder and over 45 world champion. This meant a lot of things for me. I had to work out while I was on holidays, or I had to work out after a busy night shift. I had to really prioritize in order to make sure I hit my 5 to 6 sessions per week. This also means that if I want to do better this year, I have to consider that I have to match or even exceed the commitment of the previous year. It is obviously not the scope of this video to give you a highly detailed per session, per week training plan for the entire year. What I'm hoping to give you today is strategies and things to consider so that you can build your own plan for the year that you can follow that's tailored for your personal goals. I want to be able to help you think strategically about what you can commit to and then build a plan for yourself that works to set your new personal record. Here's an example of a document that you can use to make your commitment clear and write it down so that you can regularly review it. After filling out the details, you can see that your training for the year starts to take shape. Every top level athlete in the world has a year-long training plan, but they also use a peaking program to maximize their performance for their most important competition of the year. FireFit and Firefighter Challenge athletes are no different. You cannot be at peak performance the entire year. You need to choose one competition of the year in order to be at your maximum performance. The fifth and final strategy for you to break your personal record is to plan when to peak. Pick the most important race where you want to do your best. For me, it's the Canadian Nationals in early September. I plan my entire year around peaking for that second week of September so I can race my best at that time. In order to get the most out of a peaking program, I recommend a 12-week program. The way this works is I figure out when my important competition is, say the second week of September, and then I plan 12 weeks back from that. So somewhere around June 14th or the second week of June is 12 weeks out from September, and that's when I'm going to start my peaking program. I also add in a deload every 4th week, which means that the last week before the race week is going to have a deload that allows my body to recover so I'm fully ready and rested for my race week. Now, this is not the only way to do it, and it doesn't have to be 12 weeks, but this is a recommendation for this strategy that you can use as a starting point for your own plan to break your record. The purpose of the peak is to dial in your final conditioning, training, technique, power, and mental focus for your races. You're looking to build your capacity over these weeks. You should not be running your fastest times 13 to 12 weeks out from your peak. What I want you to understand is that you're going to be starting somewhere shy of your personal goal and building your capacity into it so that you can run your new record at the end of those 12 weeks. I want to make a note here that strength takes the longest of any of the elements to add. As a result, I recommend having your strength training primarily focused before this 12-week peak. You want to have your strength as high as possible at the start of the 12-week peak, and then you want to try to hang on or maintain your strength throughout that peaking period. So while I will still train some strength during the 12-week period, it is mostly to just stimulate my body to not let go of any of the strength that I've gained from earlier in the year. One of the ways I approach my peak is to consider where I am and where I want to be. So for example, at last Nationals in 2025, 12 weeks out, I was running in the low 120s, but I wanted to run a 117 on our training tower before going to Nationals. The reason is our training tower is 2 seconds slower than the real course. So in order for me to hit my goal of 115 on course, I needed to run a 117 on our training tower. So I needed to progress over the 12 weeks somewhere from a 121 to a 117. What that means is each of the 4-week blocks, I needed to take about 1 second off my time building into Canadian Nationals. Now, that might sound easier said than done, and I agree with you. So I want to help you think strategically about how to find that second or two in each of those blocks so that you can progress towards your goal. Let me summarize how I approached it. I would run a full race on a Monday or a Tuesday. I would videotape it, I would get my splits, and I would see what my total time was. After reviewing my splits and watching my video, I would try to pick the biggest area where I had a second or half a second to gain. Then, the second tower day that week, I would work on that section. Then the following week, when I did my individual run on a Monday or a Tuesday, I would run with a focus on doing that particular section faster. In theory, if that works, I'm a half second to a second faster, but I've also videotaped myself, I review my splits again, and then I find a new area where I feel like I can gain a half a second to a second. Then I take the second tower day that week, I work on that area, and this is a cycle that I followed week by week by week by week. And I was finding those half second to seconds that I needed. So for example, maybe the first week I realized that my transition from hose to dummy was slow. Then I would do bottom half runs or hose dummy couplets, focusing on making sure that the transition from hose to dummy was really fast. Then the following week, when I did my individual run, I would incorporate that in to make sure that that was a fast part of my race. Now imagine that that works and I take the time off, but this week what I notice is that the last 2 pulls of my rope pull, there was a pause and it was slow. So then later that week, I would work on my rope, make sure that I have a strong finish with momentum over the railing. And then when I run my individual run in a couple of days, I'm incorporating that in and hopefully finding that time. And week by week by week, finding those small wins where I can progress. It may sound impossible that over 12 weeks, you're looking to shave 5 or 10 seconds off your time. But when you approach it this way, by week, attacking a weakness or an area where you feel you can gain time, you can put those steps together and really make a lot of progress. For example, you can see on the screen that I've placed up a summary of the 12 weeks, the progression, and what each week I was trying to focus on improving. On top of the 5 strategies I just gave you, I want to give you a bonus tip for your training. And the bonus tip is this: find some training partners. Now, this might sound obvious, or it might be difficult for you, as I know some of you do train alone, but finding training partners is a bit of a cheat code for improving your training. Number one, they have the ability to video you while you're training. They also have the ability to give you feedback. They have the ability to yell your splits at you while you're running so you know whether or not you're on pace or not. They also help because, I don't know about you, but if I go out and set up the course all by myself to train, that's a lot of energy expenditure before you even start training. So splitting that up between training partners helps you to get a more effective training session because you're splitting the effort of the resets and the setup. The other thing that's great about training partners, especially if you have a training partner who is running close to the same time as you, is you get that competition. So ideally, you want to be able to run against people where you have similar goal times, or maybe even somebody who's a little bit faster than you. Unfortunately, this year, what that meant is I consistently was losing my races against Brad every single time. Now finally, as a reward for reaching the end of the video, I want to give you a free tool. Wouldn't it be convenient if there was an all-in-one tool that incorporated all 5 of these strategies that you could use to help plan your training for this year? Turns out there is, and I made it. There's a link to the Google document in the description to this video, and if you click on it, it'll open this tool. I'm gonna go over how to use this tool using the example of somebody who's trying to get into the lion's den for the Firefighter challenge. For the males, that is a time of 1:40. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna open this document. The first thing you're gonna do is go to File, Make a Copy. Once you've made a copy, then you have the ability to edit it. You're gonna enter in your name, you're gonna select your event type, you're gonna enter in your gender, and then you're also gonna select your goal time. Also enter in your current best time in seconds. The reason I need it in seconds is for some of the math that happens in the background. After you've done that, you need to enter in your current best splits from your best run. Once you've done that, you're gonna see that it's gonna automatically identify your 3 biggest weaknesses or areas that you can improve. For each of those areas, I want you to go through, ask yourself those questions, and prioritize from number 1 to number 5, the most needed to least needed elements that you need to work on for that weakness. Then, you're going to go to the commitment section, and I want you to take some time to think about what you're able to commit to this year for your training and fill that section out. And finally, in the peaking section, you need to choose which event is the most important for you. Is it Canadian Nationals or your own nationals in Europe or around the world? Is it the World Championships in October? Maybe you can only run 1 race this year, so it's early in the season. Whatever it is, I want you to put the date for that in the box. And what you will see is the 12-week program gets divided up for you on the right-hand side with the weeks and the dates. The remaining thing that's left for you to do is, as you train through those 12 weeks, write down in each of those boxes the area that you were working on that week to shave time. Hopefully you can see that this tool will be a big help for you to incorporate these 5 strategies into a training plan to break your personal record this year. You know, I vividly remember the feeling I had when I finished the race and hit the mat at Canadian Nationals this year. I hit the mat with a dummy, looked up, saw 1:15. I knew I'd set a PB. I knew it was a world record. And the first thing that went through my mind was, it was worth it. All of the training, the early mornings, the late nights, working out after a busy night shift, working out on holidays, tracking my nutrition, all of it was worth it when I hit the mat and I saw that time. And so that's what I want for you this year. I want your training to be deliberate, strategic, and effective. And I want everybody who's watching this video to set a new personal record. If you found this video helpful and this tool is helpful, you might be wondering how you can thank me.
Thank you!
There's a couple of things you can do. Number 1, set a new personal record this year so I can celebrate with you. I'm serious about this. I love this sport, and the thing I love the most about this sport is watching people set new personal records and that sense of accomplishment that comes with that. I want to celebrate with you. So reach out to me, find me in person or online, and let me know if you set a new PB. Second, leave a comment below on what your PB or what your goal is for this year. And like the video and share it, that also helps as well. And lastly, there's something that I would say often in training with our team this year. World records aren't set by accident. If you look at what Brad Dix accomplished this year, which is absolutely incredible, and I'm so proud of him, and he should be proud of himself, but it came with an incredible amount of work, strategy, focus, planning, and commitment. World records don't happen by accident, and neither do personal bests. So go out there and put the work in. This is Coach Jordan. I'll see you later.
Hang on. Are you the coach?